guys, so I'm here today to do another book haul, and I'm going to start off with the books that I have been lent or given by my friends. So the first two books are books that my friend Jill lent me, and those are The Panelist Guard by Elizabeth Marie Pope. I think this is young adult or even verging on middle grade by the sound of it, but it is a fantasy novel set in 1558 during the time of Elizabeth and Mary Queen of Scots, and I believe it is inspired by sort of like Celtic fairy folklore in that time and place. But basically a young girl called Kate Sutton gets drawn into this dark underworld of fairies where they actually conduct human sacrifice. So it sounds super dark even though it sounds like a younger read, and it sounds like something I'm definitely going to enjoy. I also have Skin by Elka. This is the first in a series, and I think Jill's only read the first one, but she said that it was good fun. And this is another fantasy novel set in Britain but during Roman Britain. So it's AD 43, the Romans have invaded Britain, and there are those part of a special tribe, I guess, in Britain who are known as having skin. And this skin means they are a shapeshifter, so the skin applies to what animal they can shapeshift into, except for our protagonist who is skinless. She is the only one of her tribe not to be able to shapeshift into an animal. However, she still manages to get drawn into their ongoing feud with the Romans, and she has a larger role to play in the fate of her people than everyone expected at first. I then have a book which I took off of my dad's bookshelf, so I guess it's not really borrowing, but it is a book that I have been meaning to read for years. My dad recommended it to me when he was still alive, and my mum recently picked it up and read it and said it was fabulous, so I thought, do you know what, this is the time I will read it too. I can talk about it with my mum even if I can't still talk about it with my dad. And that is The Short Reign of Pippin the Fourth by John Steinbeck. So I've only ever read Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck before, but I loved that book so much, and this is actually one of John Steinbeck's only, if not his only, comical satirical novel, and it is set in France. It was written in the 1950s, and it's about the French reinstating the monarchy with this man Pippin the Fourth. And I've read a little bit of this one so far. I think I talked about it in my currently reading video, and I'm enjoying the prose just as I enjoyed John Steinbeck's prose in Of Mice and Men, and it is funny, but I'm not really in deep enough to give you a full opinion yet, so look out for my wrap up. Then lastly for this category, a book that my friend Jen had 2 copies of, so she passed one on to me because it sounds like something I would be interested in, is Lowborn by Kerry Hudson. Growing up, getting away and returning to Britain's poorest towns. So Kerry Hudson was born and raised in Aberdeen. She was from a working class background, and on top of that experienced a variety of different hardships when she was growing up, and this is her sort of like journalistic take, going back to the communities that she was a part of and that are similar to the community she was a part of as a young person, and like looking at poverty in modern day Britain. The author herself is now a prize-winning novelist, so she's kind of reflecting back on her journey and kind of the ways in which I guess she was let down by society and the state, and hopefully coming to some interesting conclusions and thoughtful musings on the state of the country. I then have some books I bought for myself before I get into the books I was sent for review by publishers. The first book I bought for myself I bought second hand, and that is The Star-Touched Queen by Oshana Chachki. I have heard so many good things about this author on BookTube, particularly recently because a new book in a new series by her just came out and everyone has been raving about it. I believe it's called The Gilded Wolves. So many good reviews for that book, and I thought I would go back and try some of her earlier work, pick up a second-hand inexpensive paperback of the first in her previous series. And this is about a woman who is given in marriage for a political alliance between her father's land and this kingdom, making her the queen of this place that she doesn't come from, in a wedding, in a marriage that she didn't want to be a part of, and adjusting to her new surroundings and presumably some fantasy goodness as well. But yeah, the basic premise sounded like something I'd be into, and because I've heard so many good things about the author, I was all for this. I then picked myself up 3 books in Blackwell when I was again with my friend Jill book shopping. The first 2 I got in a 3 for 2 where Jill got the other book, so I got 2, she got 1. We actually showed these briefly in my like short vlog from Jay's 24-hour readathon, so I'll link that down below and I'll be brief about them here because you might have seen me talk about them before. The first one is Strange Practice by Vivian Shaw, a Dr. Greta Helsing novel. So I'm assuming this is the first in a series, but this is about Dr. Greta Helsing, who is an MD but specifically serves the paranormal creatures of London. I'm assuming it's London because it's the London Eye in the background there. So vampires, banshees, zombies, etc. She is their GP essentially, and it sounds like it's going to be quite fun, a little bit comical, fantasy, mystery, adventure, so I'm down for this. I also picked up Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri, and this is a fantasy book inspired by Indian culture and folklore. It's about a girl whose father is from the ruling classes of the empire, but her mother is from this outcast class of people that practice magic that they're not supposed to, I believe, and she is caught conducting one of the rituals I assume her mother or a family member taught her, which is illegal, and it's about the fallout from that. And then I have The Orphanage of Gods by Helena Cogan. I hadn't heard of this book before. It's obviously a new release because it's in hardback, but as soon as I read the blurb in Blackwell's, I knew it was a book that I wanted to read. It is set in a world where the gods were overthrown. There was a revolution and the gods were deposed and people no longer worship them. However, their children, I don't know exactly whether they are fully immortal or half immortal beings, are kept in this orphanage in case that they start to show powers that means that the gods could take back their power from the mortals. And as soon as a child in this orphanage starts to show themselves as having power, they are whisked away and never seen again by their peers, and we follow one of the children in this orphanage. I then picked myself up one book on my Kindle that was pretty inexpensive and I'm super excited to read. It is a novella and it's called Hear the World Entire by Anwen Hayward. So I actually know Anwen. She is also doing her PhD at the same university as me, and I have met her a few times. She's incredibly lovely, and she's also posted bits and pieces she's written on her Tumblr over the years which I've read and really enjoyed, so I'm incredibly excited to read her novella finally. It's something I've been meaning to do for ages, and I gave myself the kick in the backside I needed to, because it is a retelling of the myth of Medusa, and Medusa is a mythological character that I'm so fascinated by that I think has been done such disjustice in modern pop culture. She went through so much and I think her story is incredibly fascinating, and I cannot wait to read a retelling of it because I've never before read one. So I'm really excited to read this novella on my Kindle. But I then have 5 books I was sent by the publishers for review, so I will jump into those. The first one I have already read and enjoyed. You can see my full review for it over on my mid-month April wrap-up, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a YA thriller mystery, a genre I love, and I love this book. It is a perfect example of that genre, so if you're at all into it, I think it's a great one to pick up. The book itself follows Pip, an A-grade student who is obsessed with schoolwork, getting good grades, has plans to go to Oxford in the future, and has decided to do this project that she gets to pick the topic of on a murder that took place in her town 5 years ago, and everyone thinks was solved because the victim's brother committed suicide, so everyone thinks he did it. However, she's not quite so sure. Naturally, she gets embroiled in uncovering potential secrets of who committed this murder. Was it this boyfriend? Was it someone else? Are they still around? Is she in danger? Who knows? Loved it. Another book that I am almost finished in this case, and that is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. I talked about this one a little bit in my currently reading video, but this is Natalie Haynes' second Greek myth retelling. She has written other works, but this is her second Greek myth retelling, and I am thoroughly impressed by this. It follows the various women's experiences of the Trojan War in Greek mythology. So both Trojan women and also Greek women whose husbands have sailed away to fight in the war, and some goddesses and muses. It's fantastic, such a range of characters. Basically, every female whose life is touched by the war, or almost every female whose life is touched by the war, gets a voice in this book in a way that they don't usually get a voice, and I think it is such a brilliant, emotive read, and I was so impressed by the way that she has characterised all the different women. But you will hear my full thoughts in my end of month wrap up about this one. Then we have Flame in the Mist by Renee Ade. This is Renee Ade's second series to come out after The Wrath and the Dawn. So I read The Wrath and the Dawn a couple of months ago, a month ago, like almost 2 months ago. Loved it. It's a duology and I'm currently reading the second one, but I was really keen to check out her other work, Natalie, so I asked for a review copy of this one from the publisher. So this is about Mariko, who is a second-class citizen simply for being a woman. Her father is a samurai and she is an alchemist, but however her value is in marriage. So she is being sent to an arranged marriage with a man that she doesn't know, and on the way her carriage gets ambushed and everybody else dies except for her. So she decides to dedicate her life to revenge. She trains in order to infiltrate this gang who murdered everyone she was travelling with and sort of, you know, conduct her revenge from within. But I assume something doesn't go quite as planned. She perhaps meets somebody who is a little bit less dastardly when she joins this gang, and I'll be intrigued to see how it follows on. But I know I love the author's writing. Two more though, and the next one is a proof copy of The Missing of Claire de Lune by Christelle Davos. This is naturally a proof, this is not what the final cover looks like. It is the sequel to A Winter's Promise, which is back here, and the second book is equally as beautiful as that one and comes in yellow, I believe. This, however, is a young adult fantasy series translated from French, so it's really nice to see kind of more young adult work that's been translated into English, because I feel like I mainly read young adult books that were originally written in English, so I'm excited to get to the sequel to this because I really enjoyed A Winter's Promise. It is set in a magical world where our main character Ophelia has been given in marriage. This seems to be like very popular in the books I'm reading at the moment to a man from a different citadel in her world, and she's sent off to marry him. But when she gets there she realises she's a bit of a political pawn, and she is being used in ways that she didn't expect to be used, and she's trying to uncover the secrets of this new world that she finds herself in. But one of the things I loved about the first book is it isn't a romance between her and her betrothed. That is not what this book is at all. It is very much about her doing some mystery solving in this really weird, wacky fantasy world. So I can't wait to see what happens to Ophelia next. And then we have one last proof, and that is Salt Slow by Julia Armfield. This is a collection of short stories published by Picador Press, an imprint of Pan Macmillan, and it's basically supposed to be a lyrical exploration of women's bodies through the short story medium, which is a topic and a medium that I love, and I love when they come together, so I'm really intrigued to try this author's writing for the first time. But those are all the books I have recently acquired. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of them. If you have read or are interested in reading them, please do leave your comments down below. But until next time, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys!